All right, let's go through the answers to the questions for Module 2, Lesson 1. Instructions: each of the following exercises contains a conditional argument. Treat all conditionals as material conditionals. All that means is that they are going to behave normally. There's no tricks here, which you can assume for this class. Assume that all arguments are meant to be deductive and rewrite each argument in standard form. Each premise and the conclusion on separate lines. If the conditional premise or negation is not in standard form, rewrite it. Supply any missing premises or conclusions. Make sure that those that you supply are appropriate. Be charitable. Then tell whether the rewritten argument is in the form of affirming the antecedent, denying the consequent, affirming the consequent, or denying the antecedent. All right, number 2. Harry will get the role only if he was trained as a method actor. Let's turn this into premise 1. If Harry will get the role, then he was trained as a method actor. Make sure you always put it in that if, then. That is what a conditional is. It should say if, antecedent, then consequent. Ante means before, consequent, like a consequence after. But he wasn't trained as a method actor, so it is not the case that he was trained as a method actor. I should make that bigger, but so it is not the case that we have the consequent. So we already know it's denying the consequent. So it is not the case that Harry will get the role. I think it helps to put it into symbolic form. So if P, then Q, it is not the case that Q, so it is not the case that he will get the role. So remember that the names of the arguments are just named after the second premise, basically. So this is a case of denying the consequent, which is a valid form. All right, number 4. You can graduate only if your library fines are paid. Your library fines are paid, so you can graduate. If you can graduate, then your library fines are paid. Remember, we put it in that if, then. And your library fines are paid, so you can graduate. You can see that this is affirming the consequent. If P, then Q, Q, right? It's affirming the second part of the sentence, which is the consequent. So P. This is an invalid form. You can think about this. Maybe there's another reason that you can't graduate, right? Like you have that one condition, but maybe you're just a freshman, so you also use your library fines are paid, but you still can't graduate. So this is an invalid form. It is affirming the consequent. Again, it's just named after that second premise. If Freud was correct, then morality is nothing but a set of internalized parental commands. But the notion that morality consists solely of commands is imbecilic, which means not that, right? Freud was surely wrong about morality. So if Freud was right about morality, then morality is nothing but a set of internalized parental commands. It is not the case that morality is just internalized parental commands, so it is not the case that Freud was right about morality. I like to, again, put it in symbolic form to help me. But you can see right here, it's not that it was internalized, so it's not Q, so it's a denying the consequent. But I do like to put it in if P, then Q, not Q, so not P. This is a case of denying the consequent. If the ability to live a coherent moral life depended on having an intellectual theory of morality, most people would not live a coherent moral life. So living a coherent moral life does not depend on having an intellectual theory of morality. So if the ability to live a coherent moral life depended on having an intellectual theory of morality, then most people would not live a coherent moral life. Then notice this, so that indicates that it's a conclusion. So I filled in the conclusion. So living a coherent moral life does not depend on having an intellectual theory of morality. Oh wait, there's a missing premise. It's assuming that it's sort of going unstated that that this person thinks it's not the case that most people do not live a coherent moral life. So that second premise is unstated, so I underlined it here. So we get a not, and it looks like consequent, right? The coherent moral life. So it's a if P then Q, it's not Q, so not P. That's a case of denying the consequent. All right, that's it. Hope it helps.